My name is Gabby Davis, and I am a solutions consultant here with Engagedly. I've been here for almost 2 years. In a previous part of my life, I was an elementary school teacher. Then I worked in an education leader in me, like leadership program for schools with Franklin Covey. And then I moved here to Engagedly after getting my MBA, and I've been helping clients get from initial onboarding into go live for the last 2 years. Now, this is what we're going to go through today. So we're going to look at some current engagement data, actually just from 2023. We'll talk about the cost of low engagement, the price of raising engagement, and then we're going to get into rewards and recognition, as well as how to apply what we go through today. All right, so some current stats. This is from Gallup's State of the Global Workforce 2023 report, and it found that the majority of the world's employees, around 59%, are quiet quitting. And only 23% of the world's employees are thriving. You know, the work isn't everything. It does account for a large portion of our weekly hours. And based on this data, the majority of individuals are finding themselves disengaged and unmotivated in their current jobs. So this is obviously not what we want and why we're here together today. So what is quiet quitting? You know, it's a popular buzzword that describes a softer approach for employees than outright leaving a role that they're dissatisfied with. Rather than looking for work elsewhere, these employees are quitting the idea of going above and beyond and choosing to instead do exactly what they're required to do. What are the signs of a quiet quitter? It's going to look like low engagement. This could be previous overachievers who now only complete the bare minimum. They are likely going to be those quiet quitters. They're not entirely removed and disengaged, but they do limit their engagement to only what they have to do. You're also going to see rare participation. Your quiet quitters may have perfect attendance, but their participation in meetings and projects is rare, if not non-existent. For virtual meetings, this could be your employees whose mic and camera is always off. They don't contribute to a lot of the conversations. In person, this could be somebody who is sitting in the back of the room. Maybe they're typing on their computer instead of engaging with the speaker. As mentioned a few times, it's also going to look like they're doing the bare minimum. They're not going to contribute to new ideas or solutions. They're going to do what is required of them and nothing else. This is, however, different from individuals who set boundaries to maintain their work-life balance. So if you see somebody doing less than they used to, it may not mean that they are a quiet quitter necessarily, but there may be things happening outside of work that require them to take a step back from doing all of the extras that they used to do. You're also going to see isolation from the team. You know, they say that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and this is a perfect example of that. Your quiet quitters are not going to be known for their teamwork, and they may only tolerate the people that they work with. They're not going to go out of their way to help others on their team or ask for help from others. Instead, they're going to turn inward and just interact when they have to. There's a lot of when they have to in quiet quitting. And interestingly, despite being minimally productive, quiet quitters tend to be more stressed and have higher rates of burnout than your more engaged employees. Ironically, by doing and caring less, their morale is much lower than that of engaged employees. And because of this, they find little to no satisfaction in the work that they're doing. Now, on the other end of the spectrum here, we have our loud quitters. Now, loud quitting is less common, but it is still present among the global workforce. Unlike quiet quitting, which may not be obvious at first, loud quitters tend to be very vocal about their discontent, and they may explicitly express their unhappiness, their desire to change, and their intention to leave. What this might look like is someone causing an unpleasant and public scene. Maybe they are loudly disagreeing with leadership in a big town hall meeting. They may also post inflammatory comments online about their organization and their leadership. They're doing what they can to kind of take down the reputation of the organization that they work for. They may undercut goals by refusing to do the tasks that they find needless or insulting, and they're often going to oppose leadership and do what they can to sow discontent across the organization. This can trigger other loud quitters to come about as well. Now, the part that we want to focus on and how we get more people here is going to be the thrivers. Thrivers are similar to loud quitters in that it's usually easy to spot them. Just like loud quitters are going to be vocal about their discontent and tend to make scenes, your thrivers are going to be really easy to spot. What are they going to look like? They're going to look like your brand ambassadors. They're going to speak highly of the organization. They may even wear branded apparel, but overall, they're just contributing to a positive company reputation. They're going to have a positive attitude. I have Leslie Knope here on the screen. She is sunshine personified in her job. And that's kind of what you're going to see from people who are thriving. They're going to approach problems with a solutions mindset, and they're often going to do it with a smile. They enjoy their work, they enjoy their company, and they tend to inspire positive attitudes in others. So in the way that loud quitting can be infectious, thriving can also be infectious. These individuals are going to be highly collaborative. They tend to keep their eyes on the company goals rather than focusing solely on their individual success. This is going to look like highly productive team members who contribute often. Thrivers are confident and innovative. They already feel confident in their role and are now finding new ways to improve their own performance and learning how they can contribute to the company more. These individuals are proactive, looking ahead to uncover potential roadblocks ahead of time, and they routinely think outside of the box and try new things to solve their problems. Finally, the biggest thing that people mention when they talk about thrivers is that they tend to go the extra mile. They see their role and responsibilities as listed in their job description as the bare minimum for what an employee should contribute. They're going to not just take that as, law and only stick to that. Instead, they're going to exceed expectations. They may participate even when it's not required. They may put in extra hours, and they typically are going to seek personal and professional development opportunities to continue to become a bigger force within the organization. I'm sure all of us are now thinking of certain people we work with and maybe where they would fall. It's I did the exercise myself, and it's pretty interesting how you'll see the statistics tend to be pretty accurate when you look across, a sample size of 50 even. Now, we're going to be talking about the cost of low engagement here. It's not just that engaged employees are more enjoyable to be around. It's not just that they contribute more. There's also a large cost to low engagement. This is also from the Gallup's 2023 report, and it showed that there's a global loss of $8.8 trillion from disengaged employees. So they represent an immense opportunity for economic growth. When we drill down further, we can look on the smaller scale. In 2020, Gallup reported that disengaged employees cost organizations 18% of their salary. To see how much of a cost that is, we're going to look at a 500-employee organization. If the workforce in this organization has an average salary of $60,000 and there's an employee disengagement rate of 20%, we can factor in Gallup's 18% of the salary and find that this causes the organization to have an annual loss of $1,080,000. Beyond the monetary losses an organization can expect, there are other costs of low employee engagement, which we kind of talked about with the quiet and loud quitters. You're going to see a loss in work quality, lowered rates of creativity and innovation, and a poor work culture. Not all is lost if you have a disengaged staff, though, as there are many, many strategies for how to increase engagement. So how do we do that? Like I said, it can vary organization to organization, and the population that you're working with is going to dictate the best way for you to increase engagement. But some tried and true ways are listed here. The first is to relate individuals' work to the overall purpose of the organization. It's not enough to show employees that you as an organization have a powerful mission. You also need to show how the employee's daily efforts contribute to that overall mission. You want to feel like a highly valued member of a team. And if you're not sure how your work is contributing to the bigger picture, then you tend to not feel very valued, and you may feel that your work is not important enough for you to put in that extra effort. So recognizing and showing employees how their jobs connect to the bigger picture is going to be really important for increasing engagement. Another option is to grant more autonomy. People more and more are talking about flexibility as a way to drive engagement, but it's more than just having flexible schedules. It's not just taking an hour off to go to the doctor or to walk your dog or whatever it is that needs to happen. It's that employees want to have more autonomy overall. This can include flexibility with some of the examples that I mentioned, but it's also allowing employees to take charge of their tasks, their schedule, and the overall structure of how they work. This could look like somebody who splits their day. Maybe they work really early in the morning and really late at night so that they have the middle of the day to relax or do something else that they need to do. It can also look like having a standing desk or deciding which tasks you do on which days of the week. There's a variety of ways to implement this, but when employees have more autonomy, they tend to have a greater sense of achievement, intrinsic motivation, and job satisfaction. The third one is to boost confidence. So we talked about this with the thrivers, that they tend to be confident employees who understand their role. And the reason for this is that people tend to avoid the work tasks that they lack confidence in. So your thrivers are the people who know what they're doing, and they're going to do not only what's required, but more than that, because they have confidence that they can do what they're setting out to achieve. To boost your employees' confidence, this could look like offering professional development trainings. It could also look like a mentorship program where you connect newer employees with more veteran ones. Essentially, anything you can do to better provide opportunities and prepare your employees to push them toward a higher level of engagement. And finally, that gets us to the topic of today, which is rewards. Historically, when we've talked about rewards, they've been strictly financial. So you see it in the form of a raise or a bonus, maybe a gift card at Christmas, something like that. However, the world of rewards is ever expanding, and it can vary organization to organization. However, crafting an effective rewards program isn't as simple as deciding what you're going to give people and handing it out. Having lunch vouchers to give out is super exciting. People love it, but that's not going to get you an effective rewards program. But there are some steps that you can take to ensure that your program is effective and has a high rate of adoption. So how do we do that? How do we craft that effective rewards program? There's some steps that we can take to get there, but I think it's only about 4 steps, and each one is pretty simple once you start looking at it, and doesn't take a ton of lift from all of your team members. The first step is going to be to define clear objectives. So this looks like identifying the objectives, not just that your business is working toward, but specifically what you're looking to achieve through your rewards program. When you're looking at this through the lens of employee engagement, this could look like encouraging behaviors that promote higher levels of engagement, such as awarding points to individuals who go the extra mile, who stay the extra hours, do additional projects. It could look like promoting helping another team out. So when individuals go and work with a cross-departmental function, maybe they get rewarded for that. You can also reward things like important tenure milestones to show that the company cares about all of its employees at every level. And you can also promote demonstrating the core values of your organization. Some of our clients do this currently. I've seen like an integrity badge, for example, and I promise we're going to look at Engagedly to see kind of what I mean when I say badges. But there may be a badge called integrity, and anytime you catch somebody displaying that, you can give them points toward that badge to recognize that you saw them doing something that you want to promote. The next step is to tailor rewards to employee preferences. The most effective rewards programs take their employees' preferences into account. The way to get these preferences could be through a survey. Some organizations will also hold a focus group, but any way to gather insight about what types of rewards would most resonate with your workforce is going to result in the most effective program. Once you have that data, you would take that information and use it to determine what rewards would be offered to the organization. Maybe the majority of your workforce is interested in having flexible timing as a reward. Maybe most of them are interested in just getting a nice note. Some people like those lunch vouchers. It's a good idea to ask people what they want so that you can appeal to the widest audience, which is also why we are going to offer a mix of incentives. The variety is the spice of life, and having different options for people to choose not only allows your rewards program to hold its value, but it's also going to allow you to appeal to the widest audience possible. So in step 2, once you've gotten those survey results, you can use those to determine the preferences of the employees and use that to design the rewards that you're going to hand out. As I was saying, some individuals are really motivated by financial incentives. Others really like to receive a nice company sweatshirt. It really just depends, but you want to accommodate as many of these preferences as you can if you want buy-in from the whole organization. And the final step here in designing that rewards program is to foster a culture of recognition. It's not enough to just have a rewards program available for your staff. Your rewards program needs to have high adoption, and fostering a culture of recognition is the best way to do this. Some things to make sure are happening is that recognition should occur regularly in order to recognize all employees' achievements. This doesn't mean that everybody gets a participation award, but it means that everyone should be equally able to receive points and rewards. So you don't want to have one manager who really likes to give out points to their team and another who never gives out points, or people favoring one another. It should be an equal playing field. You can also determine who gets to recognize. So some organizations will just have managers and members of leadership who can hand out points and awards. Others will actually extend it to peer-to-peer recognition. Part of the reason that they do this is so that they have more activity across the entire organization, so that adoption rate goes up. You'll also find that team members see more of what each other does during the day, so they're going to have more opportunity to recognize those great behaviors. In order to achieve the objectives of the rewards program, you'll need to get buy-in from everyone. So having that culture of recognition, making sure people know that it exists and that they can award each other and earn rewards is going to be really important. I think the thing I was most stunned by when setting up for this was really the statistics. I guess I knew that a lot of people were, unhappy and quiet quitting was becoming more popular, but the number of thriving with only 23% just made me kind of sad. So I think if we can do more of this and get people more engaged, that's going to be better for everyone overall. Now, what you're looking at here is my test site. And the reason we're in here is so that we can take a look at how to actually develop a rewards program and what that looks like within our own platform. So I'm going to first go into my settings here. I am in the system as an administrator. And I'm going to show you some of the options you have within the rewards module. So this first area that we're looking at, this is going to be those discretionary badges. So these are the ways that people can earn points. This is the integrity piece, having the core values show up. This is awarding, going above and beyond. Basically, any of those behaviors that you want to encourage, you can put them here in discretionary badges. So you'll see we have one here that it's just pretty general. My site is based on Harry Potter, so that's why it says house points. And it says that points are awarded to students at the discretion of Hogwarts staff. So that's how it works for them, where leadership can just go ahead and whatever they want to award, they have the discretion to use this as like a blanket category for that. There's also one for academic excellence. So this is going to be for encouraging some of those above and beyond behaviors. And then there's also just this headmaster's commendation. So this could look like your MVPs of your team or employee of the month, things where you want to recognize somebody for an exceptional contribution. We'll look at what this actually looks like when awarding in a moment. But I also want to show you the activity badges. This is harder to implement outside of our platform. But within the platform, the activity badges allow the system to take the lift off of administrators and still encourage certain behaviors within the platform itself. So each of these points is going to be attached to a specific action that someone is taking within the platform, and they can be modified to be however many points as you'd like. So if we really wanted to encourage sharing feedback one month, maybe for that month, every feedback that you share is worth 50 points. That way you can encourage people to go ahead and continue to do this. Now, in addition to setting up the badges within the platform, we also have a way to redeem them. So there are two main ways that we have redemption within the platform. The first is with our Tango card partner. This is basically a library of gift cards that employees can trade their points in for. It would be funded by the organization, and they can go in, choose the gift card that they want, and the Tango website will take care of the rest. So you don't have to worry about sending out codes or anything. If this is funded, they can trade them in for that. Now, after a lot of requests from our clients, we just recently added in custom rewards as well. And these are going to be for those rewards that aren't just gift cards. So this is going to look like your company swag. You'll see here I have a house sweatshirt. It's going to look like unique experiences. So maybe it's like tickets to a baseball game, or in this case, to a Quidditch match. You're going to see that there's a private lesson on here. This could look like a one-on-one meeting with a member of the C-suite, or an opportunity to talk to somebody important within the organization or to learn from them. And there's also a privilege pass on here. So this is going to look like a lot of your flexible timing, special parking spot, additional day of PTO. All of those rewards are going to look like this. And it's similar to Tango in that your employees would be able to come in here and choose from this list of custom rewards. However, this does need to be managed by somebody rather than the system, because these are going to be physical items typically that you're going to be handing out to them. So you need to confirm that they received what they were supposed to. And maybe while we wait for people to put in questions, if they have any, I'll answer your question about the loud quitters. The thing that I saw most often was that your loud quitters don't typically tend to be just one person. It usually is derived from a larger problem. So you'll actually see like some trends where maybe you have 1, 2, 3 loud quitters within a specific part of the organization. Maybe they all share the same manager. Or they all came from another company that was just acquired, things like that. So typically your loud quitters are going to be a bigger problem than just having an individual who's unhappy. But what they talked about was meeting with those loud quitters, hearing what their issues are specifically, seeing if that's something that can even be changed or is something that the organization might want to improve. And if not, having a very real conversation with them about whether or not that position is the right position for them. It's not that loud quitters don't know that they could quit. They're usually pretty aware that they could leave the opportunity, but some of your loud quitters actually really do enjoy their job, but something within the organization has changed that has pushed them to that other side where they no longer are happy in what they're doing. But just like with any relationship, I guess, it's to find out what the issue is, see if it's something that can be solved, and if not, talk about what next steps would look like. And I don't think we have any questions about the platform, so I'm actually going to switch us over to a student profile here so that you can see what this looks like as an employee within the platform. So I'm just on the home page, and you'll see that here in the top right, there is a place where I can see any badges that I've received and also the amount of points that I have. And if I click here, it's going to bring up how I earned those points. So you'll see that these top two are actually just going to have been handled by the system. One was from sharing feedback, and that is right here. So we can take a look at that piece of feedback. We earned 25 points for doing that. This one was for sharing knowledge on the social feed. So just by doing those actions within the platform, the system awarded these points. The third one here is from receiving praise from another user. And then you'll see down here that there are specific badges. So these have to be awarded by someone in the within the organization who has permission to hand out those points. And this is what it's going to look like. When we go to individuals' talent profiles, we'll also be able to see that down here under their engagement within the platform. We can see all of the ways that they've accumulated points, which could be helpful to discuss during performance conversations or when giving feedback. For actually awarding points in the system, we're going to simply go to rewards, and there's this button here that tells us to award points. So depending on who you want to have this permission, only those individuals will see this option here. And when they click award, they're going to see all of the discretionary badges that they have access to. And it's really as simple as typing in the name or names of those individuals, choosing a specific badge and determining the number of points, and then adding in a nice message. Thank you for, whatever that happens to be. And then you determine who to share it with. It's important when you're doing this sharing piece to know how your employees like to receive praise or awards. If people don't like those public acknowledgments, it might be better to just put the names of these individuals in here and maybe their manager so that they're all aware of it. But for others who don't mind that public acknowledgement, you can always just type in everyone, and everyone within the organization would be able to see that these people were awarded this. I do want to say thank you to everyone who's here. I appreciate your time today, and I hope that this helps you to develop your own rewards program or to revamp it if you already have one in place. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. And thanks again.